Welcome to the August 11th Select Board meeting. I'm happy to see so many attendees. We must be doing something right? Anyways, today we're going to start with the public comments section, and I'm going to move Gould Meadows right to the top because I see there's a number of people who came for that. We had a request that came after the agenda was posted about using some town resources to support the Josh Billings Road Race. And I'd like to invite Patty or anyone else who wants to come up and speak at the podium to this issue. Right now, let's go. And can you just introduce yourself and your relevance to the race?
Okay, the mic's at the right.
Mic's right here. Maybe move it over so that everyone can hear.
Over here?
You don't need it right in front of it. It picks up.
It'll pick it up.
Great, okay. I'm Patty Spector. I am the race director of the Josh Billings Triathlon. This is our 46th year, my 21st year as race director. We need to have some changes to the race this year. The end of the race, which entails the parking and the finish line and the back. The race is an extremely popular tradition of the Berkshires. We have people coming from all over the country. We have family members. We have repeat athletes. And as I said, we have registrations already from all over the country, pretty much anywhere from Florida to California, Colorado, Maryland, Virginia, New Jersey, all over. So they come to the Berkshires to visit family and friends, or they just come to compete. And about 1/3 of the race is now Iron people. We have quite a reputation. They love the race. So this year we, in a very short time period, we are making a request to the town of Stockbridge to use Gould Meadows for parking because we do no longer have that option from the Tanglewood grounds. And any questions that you would have for me, I'd be very happy to answer them.
Well, first, I have a question for the board. It's my understanding now that we have three options. We have the option to let the Conservation Commission, which manages Gould Meadows and/or the chairman, Ron Burke, who happens to be in the room with us, to make the decision. We have the option of declaring this an emergency as Patty needs an answer right away and acting as a board. Or we have the option of putting it on a future agenda, which would likely delay the decision 2 weeks, unless you guys want to meet. So my first question for the board is, which of those three scenarios would you like to?
Is 2 weeks going to be an issue?
Yes, 2 weeks will be a major issue. This close to the race right now, nobody knows what they're doing. We need to have contracts, and we also, just so you know, we have full liability insurance. We have a complete medical safety presence throughout the race, and we are also one of the major donors to the Berkshire United Way. It is a nonprofit race, and that is our beneficiary as a United Way. 2 weeks from now would make it extremely difficult to put everything together and get the word out. Right now, we're getting pretty close.
Ron, do you want to add anything in terms of your preference? If you want to, you should come up.
Questions first.
Oh, you got to come up. We got to do it because we can't comment on public comment unless we decide what we're doing. Correct?
If you're going to decide that this falls under an emergency, and if the board's going to act on it tonight. That's what.
Well, what do you want to do first? I guess I skipped that part, sorry.
Yeah, so a motion to place it on the agenda under, because it was less than
48 hours.
Submitted after we had the close of the warrant.
48
Right,
hours.
unfortunately.
You have to open it up.
So do you guys have any opinions on any of those three scenarios?
The only way we can say it tonight, we got to make an emergency.
Yeah, it has to be an emergency.
And
I have a motion.
Vote to place it on the agenda.
So I make a motion that we consider this an emergency and decide tonight.
is it qualified as an emergency?
It's really broad, the definition, but in this case, since they need an answer within, the only other thing is to schedule another meeting or
No,
declaration.
no, that's,
I don't know, thousands of people are gonna come, so.
I agree. For the motion?
Mhm.
Chuck, you want to second it?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, so we're now under emergency. Now, Ron, do you want to speak to this now, or do you want to hold the questions till after we ask them? Ron? Oh,
Your questions or?
if you have questions, come up and join us. This is a Conservation Commission property. I feel like you have as much.
Oh, it's town property.
Yeah, I don't own anything.
Um,
Over on Old Tree Farm.
So,
What's that?
Okay, what is the date of the race?
So, Sunday, September 18th.
18th. You just found out that you don't have use of the Tanglewood property?
Thursday evening.
how did that come about?
I'm sorry.
Why did that come about?
We had not received a contract from Tanglewood. And although we had asked for it, we hadn't received it. It was at the medical safety meeting last Thursday evening over in the other room.
All right, Patty, hold on. Can everyone hear Patty on Zoom? Anyone?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we got a message from Tanglewood, not the contract, we got a message from Tanglewood that we would be allowed to use the lower Tanglewood Park and Lionsgate parking lot from 6 in the morning till 1 in the afternoon.
Before the road reopens.
Pardon?
And that happens to be before the road reopens.
That is correct.
It's
So,
not realistic, is my
so
point.
we made it on. And for any extra car that remains after 1 o'clock, it would be a $100 surcharge. In the case of many of our participants, that could be anywhere from 75 to 100 cars. So that made Thursday evening the moment that we had to come up with Plan B.
How many cars are you planning on having?
Between 450, 500.
Right, got questions before I keep going, or?
All right. If this is an emergency, are you gonna say this is a one-time event then, or is this an emergency next year as well?
Well, this is what we gotta talk about. I'm very leery about this.
Yeah, that's where I'm going.
First of all, this is conservation protected land. We have restrictions on when you can hay it, when you can mow it. In traffic, this is a dog park for pedestrians and everything else. 400 or 500 cars parking in that field, I think goes against our conservation
That's a lot of cars.
restrictions.
No, just for general knowledge, we're talking about the southeast corner of Gold Meadows, right behind the parking area that's there now. Actually, that field is
Southwest, isn't it?
It's right behind the parking area.
southeast, southwest.
Yeah.
No, sun comes up down, southeast.
It's,
West is the other side of the road, so it's southeast,
yeah, this,
southeast.
All right.
Trust me, I've been there. Where was it going? That just got mowed and hayed today.
That's right.
It's a hay field, not a parking lot.
I
It's
understand.
not comparable to anybody else's parking lots that have been parked on for 50 years. It's a hay field. If it rains, it won't be a hay field for long. It'll be a mud hole. Only takes a couple cars to turn that up. Also, the reason that other parking lots are now mowed close and not left at hay fields, because years back when catalytic converters started to appear on cars, hay burns real easy. And you start a fire underneath the car and you got a real issue. So between now and September 18th,
4 weeks.
that grass.
I don't know how much grass is gonna grow. If it's green, well, maybe it won't matter. But if it's dry and brown, well, then you've got an issue there. It either has to be mowed again or raked up or something. There isn't easy access in and out of that lot at the moment. You can do it with a truck, all-wheel drive vehicle, but two-wheel drive, front-wheel drive vehicle's not gonna be good. And that's if it's dry. If it's wet, it'll be impossible.
And if it's wet,
But isn't
there'll
there,
be a great deal of damage to that field.
Oh, yeah,
and isn't there a stream?
that's part of that.
Oh, okay.
We're just talking this one field,
Okay.
not going in the other fields now. Just the one field.
Fit 4 or 500 cars in that field?
Really tight. Good parking.
What's that?
Good parking attendants might be able to, but it's.
We have parking attendants, Jeff Minkler and several other people, but Jeff will be in charge of parking attendants.
Is someone gonna be there throughout the whole
Yes,
episode?
Jeff will be the parking attendant.
Yeah, but somebody gonna be at the parking lots, in the parking lots, because there's also been an issue about drinking on town property. I've been to Josh Billings races for over 25 years. Sometimes that goes on in the parking lots.
What kind of activity?
Alcohol consumption.
Yeah, well, that would be illegal.
Could I just make a comment here, please? The bash would be, in fact, I measured it 1/10 of a mile away. Hopefully, we are talking with Rapallo right now to hold the bash at, on the east side of Route 183, and that's about a 2-acre lot. So I don't think that there would be any reason why people would be drinking in the parking lot. It's just 1/10 of a mile away. And this would be very easy access for people to go back and forth from the bash and the finish line to the parking area.
So
So those are just a few of my concerns.
what are the rest?
Other things that would need to go on. I would personally like to see at least one porta potty or 2 porta potties up in that area somewhere. I know you've got them spread around, so maybe 2 could be spread there. Trash pickup afterwards.
Not a problem.
Because in my previous life, I used to pick up trash after the Josh Road. I know it's out there. So those are things that ideally, the day after the Josh, we don't know you're there or have been there. That's ideally.
Mhm.
It's weather related, a whole bunch of things that you can and can't control. So, but then my concern is, what do you do next year? Do we do it all over again?
This is an emergency hearing, so we're only going to focus on this
Yeah,
year.
but if you open it up and say, okay, we've done it once, we can do it again.
I don't think that without an advertised public hearing, I'm not willing to make that commitment to them. I really want to limit this discussion to the situation they're in for this year. And I will point out that,
That could affect my vote on this.
what?
Well, the issue I have, okay,
Okay.
is, first of all, that's a lot of cars
Oh.
into a piece of property that is maintained at a very high level. It's, even if it's dry, it's going to be a mess when they leave. It's been donated to the town for open space purposes, correct? And if we allow this, does that open the door for somebody who wants to have fundraiser for a carnival? Somebody who wants to have a giant tag sale? Somebody wants to do something else there? Can we legally pick and choose what goes on there? I think it's opening the door to
Can we legally,
a lot
hold on a
of.
second. We're not opening the door to anything. We're having a
Yes, we
hearing.
are. We are.
Can I finish?
Yes, you may.
All right. The Josh has been going on for 46 years. The race will likely be canceled if we say no. Okay? So if you guys want to sit here and literally shut down the Josh because they find themselves stuck because Tanglewood originally committed to a 3 o'clock close time and changed it. I've been talking to Tanglewood twice this week, and their position is
Why
that
are you talking to Tango?
because this issue came up and I placed a call on it, as is my right, Chuck.
Okay, but I don't feel like we should be
Can you stop
pressured.
interrupting me just once?
Go ahead.
All right. All right. So here we got a situation where this race is not going to be able to have any parking. And that was a change that was made in the last week. They moved it from 3 to 1 o'clock. All right. We don't have any other options. So we can ignore this request, which likely shuts down the race this year and going forward, or we can accommodate the request. Now, I think that the point you're making about the potential damage to the Philly field is absolutely a legitimate one. I just think we should also consider the tradition and the economic impact on the town and the economic impact on the region and the fact that this has been a pretty darn cool race for 46 years that has really defined the South Berkshires. Now, I'm not telling us what to do. I'm listening. but I don't think we should limit it to a consideration of what some temporary damage to Gould Meadows would be. Not at this point for this year.
And may I have a moment to speak?
You can speak
Everybody can
anytime.
speak, yeah.
So questions. Has Kripalu or Berkshire Country Day School been, have they offered any parking?
Capello has a full weekend, the weekend of the race. It would have been nice if, they do close for 1 week for cleaning and repairs. It's not that week. So they have a full house that week. We have asked them, and I have not yet gotten permission, everything revolves around parking. I have not gotten permission yet to use that 2-acre piece of land. Hopefully, we will.
Okay, and
CP, they don't have very much parking. I would
Okay.
say maybe 50 cars.
Okay.
And will I be calling them? Sure, absolutely. I will call anybody who's got a big driveway.
and who's responsible if it's wet or there's damage to the field? Is it the town or the Josh Billings? Who is responsible to fix any damage? Or any mishaps, like
Yeah.
towing, anything that could go possibly in a rainstorm?
Do you have any kind of contract?
I don't know, do we?
Well, one thing I can answer is we have full liability insurance, and you would be named as, with a certificate of liability. So any mishaps, any accidents, any whatever, we would be covering it.
Okay.
We also have a huge amount of police on the presence that will be down there. The road 183 is closed until a certain amount of time. We have a full contingent of sheriffs, police. We also have the mass emergency medical, what is it,
FEMA, yeah.
which will be at the Bash 1/10 of a mile away.
Thank you. And I just want to, for historic reasons, you know, they had the cyanobacteria bloom and you had to move the race. So, I mean, it's happened before, not that this is going to happen, but just to point out, Patrick, that it has been moved before. That's all I have. Thank you.
Do we have restrictions on this piece of property?
Well, whatever conservation restrictions there are.
I mean, with
As
this,
far as setting precedent, I think because this is an emergency, I think if you word any motion to allow specifically that this was an emergency, one-time allowed use of it, you could probably use that as far as preventing. As far as future uses in that, then it becomes, is it just being used? If it's just being considered this one time, I would word any motion that way, that this is a one-time emergency situation.
know of any restrictions on that property about what it can and can't be
No,
used
other
for?
than it's town. It's-
Is that,
Not that I know of, any conservation restrictions, because it's town owned, I don't think any were put on it. I don't have an issue with the Josh. It doesn't really matter who's gonna be using it. It's the fact that it's gonna be used. It could be, whoever. I mean, you got an art fair out here next week or sometime. That's town and, that's been approved. So it's town property. It's just that I didn't want to see a precedent set that we couldn't get out of, okay? I don't want to see the Josh not go off. I've been there since, whatever, I sold popcorn. So if this works for the Josh and it works for the town, and works for the Concom, I'm all right with it, all right? But, like I said, we need certain things to make sure that everybody goes okay and everything's fine the day after everybody's happy. The
when
day
is,
after if somebody's not happy, that's not how it's going.
Right, well, you know that since you do know the race, you know that it's well done. We cross all our Ts, dot all our Is, and make sure that everyone is happy.
when's your next conservation meeting?
We just had one this week, so.
2 weeks.
Got it.
I mentioned it, matter of fact, I heard about this on Sunday, I think.
Any people want to speak?
So Monday I talked to Michael,
It's better than a check.
just for a heads up, so people could think about this.
So what do you think?
I've thought about it, and the more I think about it, more things come up to my mind, so.
What do you
We
think?
can address those, Patty, if I talk to you when you say, yeah, we can do that, then.
I Give you my word, we can do that.
Want to speak?
Enthused about it, but for an emergency situation, we can work with
Hold on. Larry wants to say something.
that. Larry, I'm out of here.
You got to come up here.
Good evening. I'm Larry Lane. I'm the president of the Josh Billings. I've been involved with it since the very beginning. And it's such a tradition for the Berkshires, and it was originally designed as giving back the Berkshires to our local residents, which that is the largest part of our race, is the recreational users, participants. And it's something people look forward to, train. They also use the boat ramp throughout the summer to get ready for the paddling. And as Patty said, we're a well-run organization. We are very sensitive to Gould Meadows, and I go there just about every single day. And I wouldn't want to promote something I thought was going to take away from that beauty. And I totally appreciate the concerns about that you've talked about, particularly weather. I think that is my biggest concern as well. But I'm hoping that for this emergency use that you will, see in our favor, and where all of us here are from the Berkshires, and we will, honor any requests and any conditions that you ask us to abide by.
So with you, Ron, say we have heavy rains.
Unless we do something with the entranceway from the parking lot to the field, no one will get out of the parking lot. So something has to be done there. We can talk about what, stone, gravel, grading, whatever. I don't want to put it on you though. He's been doing pretty good on catch-up, so. Yeah.
So we'd have to put a ramp in there no matter what to get some of the small cars in and out of there?
Something, yeah, because it drops off pretty steep, right there. There's a 5-foot drop.
You're talking 2 or 3 loads of gravel,
At least 2 probably.
2 loads, so you're probably talking $400 or $500 worth of, $600 worth of labor, time, labor, material to prep this.
Would there be any way to route the cars through the new parking lot, then around the bottom that way, rather than going straight shot down the hill?
Might be able to go around fencing on the south end. Might. I have not tried it. I can take a look tomorrow. Gary's mowed everything down there. He was bailing today, so it should be a pretty easy spot. We can, if that's doable, we can stake it out. There'll have to be some stakes in the ground for direction.
Okay, as I said at the beginning, we can empower Ron to make the call based on his comfort level with whatever this is. We could do, say, Ron and Michael together. We don't have to necessarily, just some one person, not a group, has to be able to make this call sometime in the next day or two. Or we could decide now one way or the other. And Chuck, if you're not comfortable with, the town's interest here, I think that's a reasonable position. It's really up to you guys.
Can I get back? If this is on an emergency basis, I think I would like to have the 3 of you.
I'm not gonna put on your shoulders on that. That's not your responsibility.
And also, if it's an emergency meeting, don't we have to decide tonight, Michael? We've already opened the motion. So it's on.
I don't think there's any rules around it, Jamie, but we can do whatever you want.
I've already said I'm okay that it's declared an emergency situation for the Josh. Okay, whether that covers the situation or not, I don't know. If you want someone else besides me
How are those
to take the
fields?
credit or blame.
No, we're not gonna leave the decision up to you. That's not fair to you, okay? Knowing that field, when it rains, how wet does that field get?
Well, that's the driest one down
What's that?
That's the driest field in the bunch.
Yeah, but I mean, it's,
Well, you know, half-inch rain is fine.
Yeah.
Inch of rain, yeah, 2 inches of rain and they're bailing. It's like any place,
I just, so
it's like your lawn. You drive across your lawn after it rains, you're gonna leave ruts. It's fairly firm and the grass got a good root base, so it'll hold up fairly well under rain. It's just repetitive driving that squishes it up. And if you only have one entrance and exit, that's where it's gonna be. It's not something that can't be repaired. It's just who's gonna repair
who's
it.
gonna pay? Who's gonna
Oh,
financially pay
one
for it?
final question. Will the cars just go in and stay for the time period, but they won't be coming in and out?
No, that's just something with what you said right now I'd like to address. The cars would go in, they stay. They do, so it's
And
not
then they do the
people are
activity,
driving around
then
to
drive
do
out.
anything. Then at the end of the bash, they leave.
Okay,
So it's in, park, get out.
okay,
Walk out.
Mhm.
Walk in, get in your car and leave.
okay.
So it's not a matter of people driving around.
All right, it's going on 7 o'clock, so I'd like to make a motion. And then it does not suggest support for that motion. It just simply suggests that we're going to have a motion to then vote one way or the other. So we're going to make a motion that we allow the Josh to proceed. So we can all vote yes or no at the end of that, but I just want to get a vote now because it's already 7 o'clock.
Yeah, who's gonna cover the expenses to put the road in and fix the
The
fuse?
Josh Billings will.
Was that?
The Josh Billings will cover the gravel cost.
Do we get any type of, what do you call it, retainer or anything for fixing it afterwards, or do that by trust?
That'd be up to the board.
I think we could trust them more.
Yeah.
You got them on tape.
So,
Okay.
I have no problem.
Not the best situation. I would rather not have it done. But I think we're kind of,
So do we have a second then?
I'll make a second.
All right, so the vote, the motion is made to allow the Josh to use Gold Meadows for the parking for the 2022 road race without any implication that this is policy of the town or is for the future road races or any other events. That's how I'm going to state the motion. On an emergency basis, I'll add that too. All those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. All right, on to the next thing. Let's see, a quick request. We got a personal request from the Health and Human Secretary. Okay, it might have been an email blast that you get your first and second COVID shots if you have not already. So we have now honored that request. The next thing, it's my understanding that we have a PowerPoint that will at some point soon be posted to the website. I wanted to know, Chuck, from you, are you all right with the question of the red line and intersection going on the next agenda, or do you want to have time to review that?
I think the next agenda will be fine. We got the PowerPoint today. I haven't looked at it yet.
No, not for today.
No,
It's just-
we got the
yeah.
PowerPoint today. Next.
All right.
And Van and I forget the other engineer that they have will both be available on the 25th to come out to further discuss that in preparation of setting a single meeting to discuss the intersection.
All right, the next I wanted to give the public a chance to give us any feedback on some activities, noise levels, nonprofits, just anything that you want to comment on. This is not an entertainment license hearing. This is not a subject of debate. I'm just giving folks a chance to comment in public as we are approximately halfway through the summer season, at least the July, August season. Anybody? Nobody?
Nope.
Ron,
Pardon me? Oh,
Ron,
Ron, you can come back up here if you want.
Question, what's the status on the cat and dog mountain?
That's public comment.
A public comment at the end, but that's fine. We're getting it done, right? I mean, I think that we're waiting for the base to be poured.
So the Chester Granite is finishing the stone for the bottom. Jeff Gulick is finishing the next 2 tiers up. And we have the design plans in place, and the highway will be doing the basin this fall with hopefully everything back together and then the basin fully restored and available for next spring.
So it's almost parted out, but not together.
Not together.
It was a mess. It was a lot more
I
mess
just
than
keep
we
seeing the
thought.
sign out there.
All right, so let's go back though to the list of the things that we're going through. Anybody else want to comment on nonprofits? Good then.
So, you know,
All right, so the next one is, we got a request to ban the landing of planes in the bowl. Michael, you were going to just address what that would entail. We're not going to consider whether we're going to do it. I just want people to understand what the procedure was.
the Great Pond statute gives the authority of city and towns to make rules and regulations related to the use of operation of aircraft equipped with floats. But it requires that any attempt of any such rule or regulation must first be approved by the Massachusetts Aeronautical Commission. So what can be done is we could develop a proposed bylaw, if you were so included at some point, to go to town meeting. And prior to going to town meeting, you would send it to the Massachusetts Aeronautics Commission, who would then balance the public issue of safety on the pond versus aeronautics in the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth does see airports and large water bodies as vital to aircraft operations within the state. And then if they approve the bylaw, then it can go to town meeting for a vote. But it must first be approved by the Massachusetts Aeronautics.
Yeah.
So it's something for future consideration. If we want to create a bylaw, it would have to go to them.
And I bring it up because the Board of Health weighed in, or at least the chairman did, and suggested that he knows many people who swim across the bowl. And they're, well, however slight it is, the chance of a seaplane coming down and hitting someone in the head would not be good.
Same as getting hit by a boat.
Anybody have any comments on planes in the bowl? All right, it's a quiet group tonight. I like that. No, I'm kidding. All right, Michael, you were going to address the question of grants. We got a number of questions surrounding grants on the bowl. Some of them included, let's see, Chapter 90 funds, complete streets grants for the Pine Woods connection, and some questions around the Main Street speed limit, and grants around the Main Street, pedestrian access.
So as of right now, we just received, we put in an application this spring and received funding for the design of the Second Everett Road Bridge. So that will be proceeding. Once that is up to Chapter 85 review compliance, we will then go out and apply for a $500,000 construction grant. And if timing of everything is perfect, that will go out in 2023. As part of our funding that this year, we did do a borrowing. And part of that borrowing was the identification that we would receive a planning grant, a construction grant, but the initial estimate was a 1.2 million, which still would need about 700,000 that would come out of the borrowing that was proposed at this year's town meeting. We have received a shared streets grant that I applied for crosswalks right here in front and on Elm Street. In addition, the town's receiving RAP funding, which is Winter Road Assistance Program funding. That's $142,000. The crosswalk grant was $132,000. The design grant was $100,000. Working with the Lorazon and the work that was done by the Streetlights Committee, they were able to bring in $62,000 in funding for the streetlights. In addition, working with the agricultural, we have the USDA $70,000 for the hemlocks we have received. And then, Patrick, you were involved in this, but the town, through the MVP program, worked with the neighboring towns and we're part of a culvert multi-community grant, which we just attended today.
It was 2.4 million or something.
The initial grant for just the study is $295,000. That's for the culvert assessment. But then there's additional money that comes with that as each community identifies a single culvert in order to be its priority project, and that can bring in additional money. And I think it was, we just went to the first one that was done in Pittsfield and completed as part of this program.
We have
a couple priority grants or priority culverts we're going to identify. One of them that was already identified was the Hawthorne Street culvert replacement, which I am applying for a FEMA grant for $1.2 million. I had a review the other day with MEMA and FEMA, and we still need to close what's called the BAC, which is the benefit cost analysis, the BCA, sorry, benefit cost analysis. You have to show a factor of one that their investment equals what damages and the rest that couldn't happen.
Michael, how do we compare in terms of grant receipts with surrounding towns of similar size?
It varies. It depends on the year, what you're going after. We've had a number of sizable grants and we continue. Once we get Chapter 90 review also for the Tuckerman Bridge, we'll proceed with applying for up to $1 million for a MassWorks grant.
Okay.
So it all depends on any given year, what communities are getting.
We're getting a little late. Anybody have any comments on grants? You guys? You guys have any comments? No? Anybody in the public? No? All right, we're going to move on. Thank you. Michael, what's status on the Council on Aging? We're still launching that in September?
Yeah, so the plan right now, and I will be coming back at the next meeting with all the information on the we're calling it the reopening, new beginnings after a COVID shutdown. As I stated to the board, you have put together a Council on Aging. We're going to begin our first meetings. We have been operating as a working group under me to get things kicked off. And now we're going to get everything moving ahead. We are moving forward with the plans and I'll bring everything to the select board as far as how that's going to be.
But no more, I would prefer, I don't know about you guys, I would prefer, because we have appointed the Council on Aging, no, we are moved beyond the working group. It is now a town committee, town board, right?
It's been reestablished and.
Any questions on Council of Aging? Anybody have any questions on Council on Aging? All right, I got a question on when would the swap shop reopen? I know we don't have a definitive answer.
It's going to open in the spring. We're going to build it this winter, right at the shop. Already spoken to the highway department. It's something you build the four walls, you can put it up. It's a unique design, and we would have had to order a custom shed. And when we were looking at a custom shed order, they were out anywhere from 12 to 14 months when we looked in the spring, which would have put us into the winter, and then custom order sheds. Yeah. And
Can they build shelves?
Yeah. So we just think that this is the best approach. I've already spoken, and it's a good winter job in between storms.
All right. So the answer to that question is next spring.
Yep.
We have an update on a mysterious disturbing event at the cemetery. I believe this is posted on the website and we're running a little bit behind, so I'm not going to actually read this into the record. But the gist of it is someone weirdly dug a 6-inch deep by 3 feet long by 20-inch wide, like square kind of soil disturbance behind a grave, not really above a grave. The police are investigating it to the degree they left a shovel. I'm sure that Karen Marshall will have something to say about this at the next Cemetery Commission meeting in a couple of weeks. Just want to let folks know that we do not believe it was grave digging and that it was a strange event that we are taking a look at. We've also asked the public and the highway department workers if you see any strange or unusual activity going on in the cemetery. We don't really want to encourage this sort of thing for obvious reasons. Anybody else have anything you want to add to that? Okay. Next, we have first 2 months cost of hybrid meetings, June and July. That's a typo. It should have been June and July.
Yes. So $945 was our cost. That was before we get into, by the end of this month, we will have staff trained to run the meeting. Those that have staff assigned to those boards who can do it so the chairman doesn't have to do it. And then other boards, we will still contract with them and I'll figure out the cost and the rest. So we do have some discretionary funds that we can use to cover this, but it will, we can't continue that much of a cost going on. But like I said to the board last time, those boards that do have secretaries associated with them, those secretaries will learn how to run the meeting so that we won't have to bring somebody in and then the other ones.
All right. So you're going to advise us if you need us to figure out Okay, good. Any questions on the cost of hybrid meetings? No. All right. One last one, residential tax exemption. Do you want to put up the, oh, I'm sorry, yes.
I'd like to comment.
Oh, of course, come up, Jay. I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Jay Bykowski. I'm the chair of the Stockbridge Finance Committee and an 18-year town resident. Past 12, it's a primary home for us, full-time resident, and we spent 6 years as a second homeowner.
Okay, so I'm sorry, we moved on to the residential exemption?
This is residential
Okay,
exemption.
can you hold on one second, though?
Just hear me out for a couple of minutes on this. This is a very important point as to where we.
You can speak first, Jay, but Michael is on the agenda to present his numbers related to the impact of the residential exemption, which was the public.
Numbers, I might add, have not been circulated to anybody.
They're part of the packet, Jay, but if you want to speak, you can. It's fine. The numbers are in the packet on the website.
I think if I make a couple of comments, they'd be very germane to this discussion, if you don't mind. The point is that where we're coming from is the select board really is, and town officials and government represent all town residents. And it's terribly important in the minds of many people that really a detailed, open, available, and comprehensive real estate tax evaluation study be provided so that everybody can see this and can see what majority benefits the most and which benefit the least. And basically, this document, in the minds of many, should be circulated addressing numbers, increases, savings prior to a public meeting. And at a public meeting, people who should be at that meeting should not only include full-time people, but also part-time residents of the town. And it's important to note at this meeting that the Finance Committee really does not see a benefit-wide for this idea, a community-wide benefit for the idea, and really proposes a meeting with the select board, the town administrator, town assessor, prior to a public meeting based on the details of this evaluation that's made public.
Two questions. When did the Finance Committee meet last?
What's that?
When did the Finance Committee meet last?
The Finance Committee has met probably 2 months ago. And basically, we're happy to have.
On the agenda?
We're
right.
in the process of scheduling a meeting now.
Good.
This being one of the topics on the agenda.
Excellent.
And I'd like to make a motion that we accept Jay's idea that we have a group meeting about.
We're not taking motions in public comment. We can, we're not taking motions in public comment. We're going to let everyone speak, and then if we want to speak and respond individually, we can,
This,
or not.
to me, Patrick, you got all this written down. This isn't public comment anymore. This is agenda items that you wrote down here. So I think legally, these are agenda items.
I'm going to let every single person on this
Okay?
call speak.
But I want to make a motion on the tax exemption thing is to remove this right now because we're not ready to discuss this. I'm not ready to discuss this in detail. I think we need to schedule one of our meetings directly only on this when the time comes. And I don't think this is appropriate time to have this on the floor right now because I'm not prepared. And there's too many things that are loose ends I feel very uncomfortable moving forward this tonight.
What I put on the agenda was for Michael to present the factual information around what the impact of the exemption would be. I'm not going to limit public comment. However, I'm not going to comment on any of these comments. I simply wanted Michael, because I had one guy call me up, Chuck, and say, on a $600,000 home, you're going to take the taxes from $10,000 to $20,000. Obviously, that's not true. And I wanted Michael to weigh in on what some sample numbers would, so at least the public would have the right information if they're going to have these conversations. So can we proceed with that?
It's up to the board.
It's up to me, actually. I'm the chairman of this board.
No, we can,
The two other board members. can remove an item from the agenda.
I understand that.
We just tried.
I'm making a motion to remove this from tonight's agenda.
I agree. I second.
All right.
All those in favor?
I,
Aye.
Sorry, guys, we're not gonna have a comment on the residential exemption
We're
tonight.
just not ready for it. I mean, it's just,
Can I make a brief comment?
Well, Jay did, I don't know, I mean,
Am I allowed to?
I,
public comment, it's
you
public.
can make a public comment, but
You can make a public comment.
all right, well,
I'd like to make a public comment. Do I have to go out?
yes.
Okay. Stephen Stern, I live at 4 Emerson Lane. I was a part-time, resident and for the past, since COVID, full-time resident, plan to be. My comment is broad strokes. And I think I can speak to this because I've spent a 40-year career in municipal finance and I understand the workings of municipal finance. I think it's important for this town to be cognizant of the fact that for the long-term health, we have to, your policies, what we should be looking to do is to encourage more full-time residents. I don't have all the numbers, I wish I did. I don't have the time to really analyze it, but I think our numbers in the 30% range of full-time residents. I think that affects, in the state of Massachusetts, I believe that affects our funding as well when we have lower amount of full-time residents. So having,
We're up 50%.
Chuck, we're not commenting.
no, I don't have the numbers. I admit that. I thought it was significantly lower. But again, whatever policies we adopt, I think we should encourage more full-time residents. I think it would help funding. I think there are things that capital programs that could be adopted. Personally, the area I live in does not have sewers, water, and septic. All do drain into the bowl. It would be great for the health of the bowl for, if sewers were to be extended at some point in time, and if we had the financial wherewithal to do so as a town and had, better funding sources, it would be good both from the standpoint of getting state money and having, revenue. And, we certainly want to enhance all our property values. So I just wanted to encourage the board to adopt policies that head us in that direction.
Other public comments?
Joseph
I have
Newberg.
one closing comment.
No, Jay, I'm gonna call on Joseph Newberg.
All right, well, gentlemen, thank you. And I understand this is not ready for prime time, and I applaud the select board members who think that more study and factual development is needed before this goes forward. I will look at the materials eagerly that you say are posted with the agenda, not publicly advertised, but hopefully those examples will also shed some more light on it. But in the meantime, I have 5 comments. They're short. I think the real estate tax exemption is a bad idea, but I think it's a bad idea for 5 reasons. One, it's very inefficient. It doesn't just target those in need. Once you define who it is you think is in need, it pays every full-time resident owner valued below a break-even point, which I think I just estimate. I don't have the numbers. Maybe Michael's has them. That break-even point, based on some numbers Patrick was kind enough to share with me last week, and I plugged into the calculation, seems to be around $2 million of assessed value, not the 1.4 million something that was previously circulated based on past year's total assessments. And if that's even close to the truth, then you're moving some benefit to every full-time resident who's assessed below $2 million, a break-even point, from the 1,100 or so non-residents who are paying for that. It's not fair because it moves a lot of the dollars, and much more than you would think would be needed to service whatever targeted group were intended. And it's moving it from 1,100 part-time owners to 600 full-time owners, regardless of need, of age, of longevity in Stockbridge, or ability to pay. And none of those things divide us by class. They're uniform. We're all people. Many of us have lived here long times. Maybe our families have. Some are older, some are retired, some are, some have trouble making ends meet, some don't. And that's across the whole town. That's not specific because you're not resident, not full-time, or you are full-time. But you would divide us. This is the third point. It divides us now into these conflicting and resentful categories based on a distinction that's of no relevance to the need or the ability to pay, and it's gonna damage our culture. And I know some of you think the culture of Stockbridge is very important, and I certainly do. I've been here 42 years as a part-time resident. My kids have grown up here. My grandchildren are starting to grow up here. This kills our culture of common support and participation for the continual improvement of our Stockbridge that we all love. And the Josh Billings is just, one example. Okay, we're going to lay down all the rules for that. Now, the
What's your fifth point?
Fourth point is this damages non-resident support for, and I'm not making this up or threatening this, I'm just reporting what people have said in the press already, for local institutions such as our fire, police, library, and more, our local businesses, restaurants, inns, you name it, local philanthropy.
What's the fifth point?
All right. Well, thank you for moving me on, Patrick. I appreciate it. I think this will, finally, I think this will be a bad deal for the administration of the town because it's going to burden the administration of town services. If you think raising the property tax rate on all the residential properties in town will not lower the total valuation of the residential properties in town, you are in for a big surprise, because property values are determined in part by capitalizing the tax burden that localities impose on them. So localities next door to each other that have low rates of taxation per thousand, equivalent properties are valued much higher in those communities than in communities next door that have, I'm sorry, the higher rate ones are valued lower, and the lower rate tax burden ones are valued higher because they bear a lower cost over multiple years. And I live in one such community. And so there are going to be a lot of abatement applications, I want you to know. And that's going to not only burden your poor assessors, but it's going to burden your budgeting capability.
All right, Joe, we got like 30 other people on the call. Thank you. Next person wants to speak on this or any topic.
Laura DeVester.
Laura DeVester.
I don't know how many people want to speak, but it doesn't make sense to have the conversation where people are expressing their opinions and not have Michael present some of the work that's been done to date, so we can have some basis to how to talk about it.
It's public comment. People can express whatever opinions they want.
Okay.
I want to just say this so you know. This is a very, very, very important topic. It affects every single person in this town. I work all day. I farm. I'm out to 7, 8 o'clock at night in the fields. Today, every minute I had, I was on the phone. I was talking to people down east, talking to people on the Cape, talking to people around here, getting all the information I could possibly get. I need time to digest that information. We came across different options, I think, that we got to discuss. I don't want to go up tonight because I'm still investigating them. My point of view in this all time that this came about was I'm not making a decision until I find all the information we need to have, all the numbers, who it affects, who it hurts, other means of ways of getting this done, taking, things that come across today that I need time to digest and pass along to other people. I think we got to really look at even our town policies and our planning board and stuff to do things to ease the taxes and to do things. So there's so many things going on with this that we need more time. And once I'm satisfied with the information I got, I would pass it along to the public. And I think it would be a great help in understanding things down the road. And that's where I stand on this.
Okay, do we have any more public comment as our board is,
Wait, right here. Did you?
Not on this topic,
I'm sorry.
are we moving on?
How many people have their hands up that they want to speak related to the residential exemption or any other public comment policy? Can everybody on Zoom, or let me finish, can everybody on Zoom raise their hands if they plan on speaking to this? Or in this room? How many do we have?
You have 3 hands up.
There's 3 more speakers. Good. So, and who are those?
Peter Ungaro,
Who else?
Patty Kaya, Mary Burley.
Okay. Peter and Patty, you're together, correct? Or no?
No, we are actually individuals. Thank you.
Come on, Patty. I mean, are you going to be able to speak to one point?
No, we are separate.
All right. So Patty, why don't you speak first?
Okay, I don't usually like to cut the line. In addition to the data that Michael Canales has released, and I do appreciate the data, so thank you very much for that. I was hoping that the board would also at some point, perhaps in this upcoming public meeting that will be devoted to this topic, that the town will also be presenting data on the targeted populations, the groups that you're basing this need on. Because I feel that some of that data has also been presented in what a gentleman in the room has called broad strokes. So I would appreciate that in some future format. For our consideration, thank you.
Patty, can I ask you, when would you, this is really a question for everyone, just from an agenda point of view. The tax classification hearing tends to be late October. And any advice anyone wants to provide in terms of the hearings that folks want to see, the other boards that might want to weigh in, I would be most appreciative of a call or an email or contact with the board around scheduling of forums to discuss issues. Everyone needs to remember that the tax classification hearing happens every year. Okay, this is not something this is actually voted on every single year. Now this year, it's taken on, I guess, some new urgency because, folks sense, I don't know what they sense. All I know is it has. So I'm open to discussion with you guys. I mean, for example, is it more helpful that meeting happened before the end of the summer where there's more second homeowners here who could weigh in than, for example, in September, October? Those kind of scheduling issues I would really like to get feedback on so that we can have a hearing that's fair to everyone.
So because you asked me specifically, Patrick, so I'll just give you
You and everyone else, yeah?
my personal comment on that. I don't have a preference with regard to the scheduling. That's something that I would actually do a poll and figure out what people want. But with regard to the meeting itself, in 2021, just as a point of order, it was actually, we were told that there would be some sort of a meeting, I'm not going to give it a category name, to discuss this topic specifically. And then that meeting did not happen. The tax classification meeting did happen. It was voted on during that meeting, but there was no precursor, no public forum in which to comment.
I'm asking about this year, not last year.
No, so I'm just saying that I think that that's leading to your observation that there's created a bit of urgency around it. Thank you.
Okay. Who's next? Peter.
He put down his hand.
Okay.
Mary Burley is up next.
Hi, Mary. How are you? Do you have any questions on any topic?
I have a specific question on the tax topic. First, I want to say I really appreciate the intent to take care of people in town who are on fixed incomes and have lived here for a long time. I have questions about the administration, and in my case, I own I'm a full-time resident with 2 properties. So how do you start to figure out how those get classified if you're and I'm not actually renting either one, but we go back and forth. So so those are the kinds of things that could be complex.
Michael Blay and Michael Canals can work with you if you want to get the specific impacts, for example, from last year, whether it had gone through versus not gone through. I think it's speculative this year because we don't have any of the numbers yet, such as what the total valuations are. And based on that, like what the underlying tax rate would be if the tax method is adopted the same as last year. So, but Michael.
But how do you classify a full-time resident with more than one property? That's the,
I understand, but the impact is based on state law, and they could walk you through what your impact would be.
okay. And then I did have a question about whether there's been any Chapter 90 submissions or any DOT grants. I know the Averick planning grant.
Chapter 90.
Is that submitted?
The Everett planning grant was submitted in May and we've been already approved for
Yeah,
the,
and that was one Len wrote, I know.
no, that wasn't one Len wrote. He did it for the first one. This one
Okay,
was in
the
May.
second.
Yeah, this is last year. The shared streets through DOT is 132,000 that we have secured to do the crosswalks out here in front.
Sure.
Then we have the, sorry, gotta get to my list of
Like, I
projects.
guess the specific question, I heard the earlier piece, is Chapter 90 submitted, and is there any work going on to connect, to work on the intent from long ago to connect Pinewoods to Main Street with bike paths?
That one I am not aware of.
Mm-hmm.
We have Chapter 90 money, yes, but not specifically for,
But that's smart and complete, so I guess we would like an update. I'd like an update on that project. Maybe that's complete streets, right? But,
Yeah.
but
And we'll go, Mary, the question of Pinewoods and connectivity, I've had that same request from a couple of other folks in town, and I do plan on putting that on an upcoming agenda. One of the folks who asked me to put on has COVID right now, and we're not sure if he's going to be able to participate. So if it's not on the August 25th meeting, it will be on the first meeting in September, or one of the meetings in September. That has been a question that came up at town meeting. It's also a question I've been privately asked about since town meeting, and I plan on having a discussion around that sometime over the next 1 to 3 meetings, depending upon if this gentleman
and I can find out
does
as
well.
far as specifically for a bike path, complete streets, that program was managed by Berkshire Regional Planning. So I will reach out to Berkshire Regional Planning to find out where the status of Stockbridge is as far as complete streets project.
great. And I think you do have written material to support that project. It's just a question of bringing it back and resubmitting.
Okay, well, we can cover that when we put it on the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else for public comment?
Jim,
Right here, Steve.
Steve, hi, Steve.
Who's first?
Can come up.
Okay. Steve Knopf, I live at 2 Larry Wog Cross Road. I'm just here to request an update on the Larry Wog Bridge project. Just a brief comment that during the construction and bridge replacement project, parts of our backyard were used to access the bridge and to stage equipment. Caused a lot of damage and left tractor ruts and large areas of dead grass. In addition, they removed all the plants that provided us with some privacy from the road, and none of that's been restored. There was some attempt to lay some grass seed, but there's still this plastic mesh that runs along the entire length of the embankment there, which is now getting overgrown with weeds. I don't think that mesh is meant to be permanent.
no, it's not permanent. So, Steve, so I can address that with you outside of this.
Okay.
That's not a problem. You can just give me a call. That would have been very easy. We can go up there with the highway and make sure everything's restored, plus when we finish close out with the whole project.
Okay,
Make sure.
I will get in touch with you.
Excellent. Anybody else have a public comment?
Jim Belafans.
Jim Balfans. Hi, Jim.
Can you hear me
Yeah.
now?
Hey, Jim.
Can you hear
Yes, you can.
All right. I just have a question. It's my understanding, at least since I've been a resident of Stockbridge in 1988, that we've always had just one tax classification. I believe we've only had one tax classification for the entire history of Stockbridge, but I'm not sure on that. We value this the few businesses we have. As you know, we don't do a business tax for them. They're included with the one tax program that we have. my question is, have we ever had a dual tax or a split tax situation in Stockbridge? I know we haven't had it for the last 35 years.
Certainly, I think that answers your question. For 35 years, we have not. Going back to 1739, I cannot answer that question.
Well, I'm not asking you, smart ass, to go back to 1739. What I'm asking.
What are you asking? You answered your own question. You're basically saying your opinion. That's fine, Jim. I get it. We all have one tax rate now. Yes.
Thank you.
Any other public comments?
Let me make sure. Patty has her hand up again.
No, we're not going to go.
It's not related to the RTE, if that matters.
We're not debating the RTE tonight.
No,
Everyone,
it's not related to the RTE, Patrick, if you would be patient enough to listen. Thank you. It is not related to the RTE.
okay, I'm sorry. I was just reading the screen where it says no RTE.
Yes, but that's not my question. Thank you.
And so what's your question, Patty?
My question is for the folks on the at the table. Is there a mechanism to find out if any marijuana related businesses have applied for licenses in Stockbridge? I'm just curious as the process to find that information out.
No.
Yeah, no.
You could submit a public information request. I'm not aware of any in the last 2 years that have applied, but as far as prior to that, we'd have to look to see if anybody did apply.
I don't recall of any, don't hold me to it, but I don't recall we had any in the time I've been here.
Patty, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that you had a different question. I apologize. Anybody else?
Jim still has, I'm not sure if he still has his hands up or has a different question.
Jim?
Nope, he dropped his hand.
Okay, then. Next thing is parking and electronic charging station discussion. We have Cara, the planner from BRPC, and Laura DeVester. Cara, do you want to come up and?
Do you want me to go first or her?
It's up to you guys.
I'm happy to go either way, whatever makes sense. I can talk about the charging. That's fine.
Yeah, go ahead.
Laura.
Okay. So I want to let people know I'm here representing the Green Communities Committee for Stockbridge. And I want to thank the committee. That's the first and most important thing. Pat Flynn, Buck, Starbucks Smith, Miles. I can't think of everyone's last name right now. But anyway, Miles, Moffett, and Michael and Mike Buffoni, and then Michael and Chief Ben have also been participating. And one of the topics that's come up actually by residents and by the committee is whether we should install electric vehicle charging stations. And the thought is that this is a good way to bring and serve and encourage the million or so tourists who come into Stockbridge. That would help. It would help to provide this as a way that it could pay for itself. It could alleviate some downtown parking, provide good access to the downtown, and dovetail with other efforts to bring parking to the town. And then again, a regional planning commission, I think, is also working on an overall parking plan. So anyway, with that in mind, we started to explore a location, how many, and other aspects and funding for electric vehicle charging stations. We engaged Guardian Energy as a consultant, and they're going to present a proposal to us, and we're probably we'll have that in hand or recommendations in the next week or so. They're listed on the state contract, and they do this kind of work for many towns. The committee, those who could attend, met with Guardian at the town offices. We really identified the town offices, especially the backside nearest to the police station, as the most promising site because, again, we want to bring people and vehicles to there as opposed to downtown. It could be a good place for public parking and to look at the space. And the chief was there and several of us. And so that's really where we're focusing right now to see how many spaces and things like that. If and when we install the charging stations, we could charge. This wouldn't have to be something that the town provides for free, but people could charge. We could charge for the cost of electricity and maybe a little bit of an add-on for future maintenance. There could also be a discount as a perk for maybe town employees if they want to park there. We talked about the speed of the chargers because there are now 3-level chargers. Level 1, which is sort of slow. It's like charging it in an outlet. That's what I do with my vehicle at night. I charge it and then in the morning it's charged. But that's probably too slow. The high-speed chargers are probably too expensive, although we haven't ruled anything out. Within the level 2 chargers, there's a range, and we're thinking probably the top of that range wouldn't be enough someone's not going to come and charge their vehicle so quickly, but they could come, plug in their car, walk around town for several hours, do what they need to do, and have a significantly charged vehicle. When it comes to the cost, we are thinking, we don't know this, and we'll find out more, but we're hoping that we would be eligible for up to $50,000 in grant funding from National Grid and from the DEP as part of their settlement with VW. So we'll find out more about this. And in the proposal, we can look at what some of our options are. So as I say, now we're waiting for that proposal. Some of the considerations are, do we just do what we can right now, or do we want to kind of lay more infrastructure down so that we can be future ready? So we're not sure about that. And we think there's enough space on that side of the town offices for about 10 to 12 parking spaces. I did speak to Chris, who's the facilities manager at the Norman Rockwell Museum. They have 8 spaces. They haven't noticed more than 5 or 6 being used at a time, but I think like everyone, they're anticipating that need just to increase. They've and the demand to increase. He said that all the feedback on that has been very, very positive. And then Pat also spoke with the Red Lion Inn, which I think they have 2 charging stations, and I think they offer that as a courtesy for their guests. So that's sort of, I think really the purpose of this is to let everybody know that we're looking at this. We think we have a good space, and and this is just the update so people know it's happening. And that will report back when we have a recommendation for the select board. And in the meantime, please, always feel free to contact me if you have questions or input or thoughts about it.
You guys have any thoughts on the number of charging stations we should start off with?
I think we need to get the price, where we're going to put them,
The cost.
what we're going to charge. I'm in favor of them, as long as they don't cost tax dollars a penny.
Or we'd have to appropriate it, but yeah.
Well, I'd say there's other programs and stuff, because
Okay.
There may be no cost to the town, depending on how it comes in. And there is a possibility of starting with like 4, but actually installing the infrastructure, so that if we see them being used, we can expand further and things like that. Or we might start with 6, but I think, right, Laura, we were gonna wait to see what the funding we could get, how many we could get the initial install, and then.
yeah, I'm 100% behind it.
Back.
I'm just not very about using tax dollars money to pay for charging somebody else's vehicle. You know what I'm saying? It's just,
Right. I mean, we can look at that also in terms of the pricing. But I think it's really, I think there are a lot of different opinions. We're going to listen to, I think the committee will talk about it, and we'll come up with some recommendations or options, and we're not the deciders.
yeah, no,
You're right.
but I'm not going to make any comment. That's just my little point of view, but until you come up with the numbers, everything that we can vote on it.
Right.
With actual data, and then we'll take it from there. You're doing a great job.
Great, thank you.
We need them, but just how we get them is
Right.
your job. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you. You're welcome. My pleasure.
All right, we now have Kara.
Can
to finish up the off-street parking.
Come on up.
I'm gonna throw up her PowerPoint presentation.
The masses.
You can pull a chair up if you'd like,
Yeah, you can
or do you
sit.
want to use
I've
the
been
podium?
sitting all day.
Okay.
I think my ankles are swollen. All right,
It's nice to see you smile.
yeah,
Thank you.
refresh. All right. So let me pull up. There we go. So, I want my back to you. So, my name's Kara Farrell. I've met all of you, I think just once. Jamie, you came to a planning board meeting
Yes.
where I was working on
Mhm.
accessory
I
dwelling
did.
units. Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
And so it's my second select board meeting, and we're still talking parking. So Mike, if you go to the first slide. So this is copy and paste from my original presentation. When the demand for parking exceeds the supply, and no surprise, the strategy is to allocate priority for different parking purposes. So the combination of the current off-street parking requirements with the volume of on-street merchant parking is not fitting the bill. And the bill is that some merchants historically have been parking on the street in front of and closest to their shops, leaving less or no room for customers. And this has been brought up before at, I think it was the 2020 annual town meeting. An article was proposed to amend the zoning bylaw, section 6.2, off-street parking requirements. This vote failed without a two-thirds vote. And as number 2 is seen on the screen here, many establishments in the business district are physically unable to conform to that zoning bylaw, section 6.2 for off-street parking requirements. Next slide, please. Top 2. So this slide, again, very similar to something that we saw in the first PowerPoint. It's just more of a narrow focus. We've got our top 2, which is right here. And then the Stockbridge Town Park just further south here on Park Street. So both identified locations are within, I'm going to use my air quotes, everybody, acceptable walking distances, because, you know, you've got a different acceptable walking distance as I do, as you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, elderly individuals and persons with mobility limitations will benefit from shorter, well-lit walking distances, and that includes, as of present, one of those options, which is the Main Street Town Hall. So the selection of these locations for additional parking should not just be based on distance, though. Consideration should also be given to the quality and safety of the walk, as well as the impact on traffic flow and ease of access. So I don't live here, you do. I only drive through here to really get to Town Hall on Thursdays, or if I'm getting lunch. But traffic is a hot topic for many of these small towns, and it's definitely a current topic for Stockbridge. So that's definitely a requirement that we want to meet moving forward with either a decision or at least just mulling this idea over. So next slide, please. This. So let's see, we've got, this is from Biomaps 2, which is a mass GIS program offered online. And so this map was an important part of discovery as it informs us of conservation and open space limitations. I know Conscom spoke a little bit earlier tonight about hesitancy regarding open space and, you know, conservation efforts that Stockbridge has gone above and beyond to maintain and preserve. So we are looking at both the top 2 options, if you will. You'll see Bidwell Park, the green section, and you'll see the Recreation Park just southwest of Bidwell Park, where Town Hall is. And you'll see the hashing or the diagonal lines indicating conserved open space. Now, it's not great to mess with conserved open space for a number of reasons. We've got well-preserved and protected recreation areas in town. Other options are more viable and, quite frankly, much easier to do. So let's move on to the next slide as those top two options. Out of the two final choices, this is the no-brainer in my eyes, which is the Main Street Town Hall, which is right where we are. Listed here are the reasons behind that decision. I'm not gonna rattle them all off, but they include, you know, like I mentioned earlier, the well-lit, which is a very important thing for pedestrians. It's close to downtown. Again, the acceptable walking distance is key for parkers and visitors. It's got the full sidewalks, and I think once Laura was just talking about at the bottom, we've got the 65 total existing spaces here surrounding Town Hall, including 5 handicap, and 63 of those are non-handicapped. And so that number, the 68, would encompass X amount of EV stations that would be installed. So that's important to keep in mind too. You're not taking away spaces, you're just designating them. And then highlighting again for future reference, the availability for peak hours and weekends. So are there any questions on this slide? Okay, on we go. Park Street is the second finalist in the off-street parking ideas. So Park Street at Stockbridge Town Park comes in second place in my eyes for several reasons. Again, you'll see them here. There are some pros. Again, town property may encourage park visitors and close to downtown. Though the cons are heavy to those pros in town administrators' eyes as well as mine. So not only are you dealing with the floodplain over there, which isn't the greatest starting point, it's already used as overflow parking. So really it doesn't make too much sense to pave what's already being used as parking to still just be used as same parking. And it's a dead end. It's not a great situation, especially for the residents living there, and individuals who may be trying to head south, turning out of Park Street. Especially if there are events, you know, you've got Tanglewood, you've got all of the exhibits, you've got the gardens. So all of that on top of an existing active park.
So wasn't there some question though of like kind of doing diagonal in parking there rather than, I mean, I don't know what you're talking about paving. I mean, so just along the road there, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, so.
Not converting the park to parking.
Oh, no, not converting.
I mean, I understand. I want to make sure people out there.
Oh, yeah, no, we're not, no.
So is the question here, like, is what you're saying is that you don't feel like angled in parking, for example, would be a good idea for that lot?
That's correct.
Okay.
I don't think it would be the smartest decision out of the two, for those reasons listed on the screen. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Thank you for clarifying. Hopefully no one's confused. So yeah, it doesn't make too much sense to pave what's already known and used as overflowed parking, especially when the location is already used for recreational activities during peak hours and peak days.
And on those recreational activities, like for example, a soccer game in the soccer field, is there adequate parking for the people who come to that event?
No.
So wouldn't that, why are we talking about an either or then?
Because the select board itself, Karen presented a number of options. You guys asked her to review these two. This
Right.
board asked her.
But it doesn't have to be an either or. We could conceivably add a little bit more efficient parking on Park Street and do something behind Town Hall.
Right,
if
but
we
right
want to.
now, to address town hall parking, we're making our recommendation. That's
Okay,
the
all
board.
right, I'm just trying to clarify. All right, thanks.
Where was I? So additional parking spaces is highly sought after. So let's go to the next slide. Back to Town Hall. These are some nice colors. We've got blue and red, nice and patriotic. So in the red, you will see existing parking outlines. In the blue, you will see what could be additional parking spaces on the east side of Town Hall, over near the police department, over whereby Laura just mentioned the high potential of these EV chargers being installed.
Are we able to go out into that basketball court and go out that way?
That's the designated conserved open space land of the Well Park. Yeah, that was the original idea. I was like, oh wow, look at all this great open land, you know, and then it was kind of like,
No, open space, it's open space, that's
Yes.
fine, I was just.
yeah, we looked at it. It is
possible, but it's difficult.
And Bidwell Park starts where?
Right just past the red line,
if you go back to
Okay,
that
give me
other-
colors, because I color,
right along,
along where the white lines are with the parking?
yep, right.
In the
And so you're saying that.
Basketball court.
Space
Everything to the
is that
right is
Bidwell?
conserved land,
Yeah.
and it's your understanding, have you seen the conservation restriction there?
Hill.
Oh.
Was conserved as in sort of, it's like,
Even land that's used for recreational and park use has to be released from that in order to be
Okay.
used for another use.
all right, I'm not saying we should, I'm just wondering what the rules are.
Yeah, we dug into it a little bit,
No.
and that blue outlining is a gross of an additional 7 spaces. So, again, if you're looking at the largest rectangular box, northeast corner there, there would need to be some leveling, there would need to be some, you know, a few steps before that pavement's put on there. But those are meeting your off-street parking requirement sizes, and that's the pitch for Town Hall.
And which blue box are the handicapped?
There would be no additional handicap spaces. We've got the 5 distributed predominantly at the south.
Okay.
If you really focus, right out here, pretty much.
Carl, approximately how many public parking spots are there from Park Street to here? Do we know? From like in the downtown area?
I don't know.
No, on street, I mean public, like, you know, like, I mean public, not on street or off street. I mean, like when you look at the parking spaces on Main Street, on Park Street, and what we currently have here, do we have a count of approximately what that is?
I know, we could get a count for you, but right now we were focused on what would this add to that on-street parking? And that's what we're focusing on.
We're trying to supplement.
68 additional spots, that if we target people, that people know that this building is available for public parking in the evenings and on weekends, we want people to use it because people seem hesitant to use it.
Oh, so you're saying the mixed use will count toward additional spots rather than actually building additional spots?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Darn
so
slow.
we'll get to the shared parking, right now. Good segue. So this colorful screen, we've got 3 little circles. We've got users, uses, and peak times, which equals maximum efficiency. So, the idea is maximum efficiency for off-street parking as well as on-street parking. We're focused on the off-street parking. So in order to maximize town hall parking, the pitch is shared parking. And that includes differing peak times, like Mike just leaded in with. We've got the town employees working, you know, during the day, Monday through Friday, weekends, evenings, it's vacant. You guys parked here, I'm sure you got the exact spot that you wanted. Users, we want to encourage and draw from downtown not so much the customers, but the merchants. It's a great spot for merchants to be parking over here. It's available, it's free, everything's free, and it's well within an acceptable walking distance to these downtown businesses that are currently parking in front of their stores or next to the stores, which has, again, the core issue here. So if we go to the next slide, this pretty much just sums it up. Why am I thinking about shared parking as a management strategy? So this slide highlights the existing town hall parking as the shared parking location. Again, it's a pre-existing lot with expansion as a possibility, as we saw in the map earlier. Again, and it really highlights the non-competing uses of everyone who can park here. I walked to get my lunch today, and I am walking out the front steps of Town Hall, and people are parking as far as they can down Main Street, but Town Hall is open. So they're really parking further, perhaps because they don't know. But there could be another reason. I mean, there's no signage, there's nothing there besides, ooh, can we park there? I don't know, better play it safe. So providing the off-site parking would alleviate people from having to walk further if they know it's a really, really good option.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so more on the shared parking. So I didn't come up with this, spoiler alert. It's been in existence for quite some time. This information I got from the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency's presentation, the overview of management strategies of U.S. parking policies. So it really supports the geographic consideration of utilizing and potentially expanding the parking lot at downtown Town Hall. And since distance is usually the first deterrent that comes to mind when trying to figure out where to park, selecting a location based heavily on geography makes sense. I'm really just reiterating why Town Hall got the gold medal. And back to the whole shared parking idea as it relates to where this conversation came from. We want to draw people this way. We want to draw downtown over here during the peak hours. These businesses have different peak hours than Town Hall does, regardless of the floor of Town Hall worker. It's a no-brainer. It makes a lot of sense to encourage it. And, the signage, Mike, if we just go to the last slide. So these are two municipalities that I worked for in upstate New York. Little shout out. Village of Fairport, right on the Erie Canal. And that picture, it is the town of Pittsford. It's within the village of Pittsford. Also beautiful on the Erie Canal. So parking signs don't have to be ugly. They don't have to be the generic, metal P with the arrow. If signage is going to be a deal breaker, or if it's a point of contention for the town, I envision something similar, charming and informative for Stockbridge. So that's my pitch, and I'm sticking to it.
That's a good one.
Yeah. No saleswoman, but that's it. Questions, comments, concerns?
Seems like it'd be easy to implement, right? I mean, aside from building the 7 new ones, we're putting a sign up.
Right. Well, we think we'd start with just putting the sign up, evaluate the parking, and then, we could expand 7 within the footprint of the building. And then if ever we wanted to look beyond the footprint of the building for additional, we'd have to look at Bidwell Park and what it would take to do that. But that would be way down the road.
As you move north, I think it's north, up that hill for that 7 spaces. Right now it's kind of landscaped and it's grassy, right? How close to the road to the sidewalk are we getting with those additional
No, we're still
spaces?
staying a good distance back on it. And you could easily fill it in, that area. We could still put some nice garden around. But we would only pursue that if we see Town Hall and downtown overflowing. The first thing is the part that really, if you ever hear, that side of the building, down on the east side of the building, very seldom ever are people parking there. So we really want to just take that hesitation of people using this building, especially on the weekends, away and encourage people, because if they see the parking sign, especially tourist visitors that aren't familiar with the town, they'll pull in and use it if we put that sign up. Staff gets here early enough that during the weekdays, we're here, we'll grab our spots. It won't be an issue Could there be some times where there might be a couple conflicts? We'll have to see. We'll have to try as we go along. But what we really want to do is encourage town hall to be part of the public parking for downtown as our first attempt to try to alleviate some of the congestion that we have.
So how do we go about implementing this?
All we would have to do is a couple signs to begin with. Yep, small cost, could do within the budget, probably just do a reserve transfer.
Would you limit the time that people can be there? I mean, there's.
It's an enforcement problem.
I think we wouldn't at first, we would just experiment with how it would lay out. We've been out there when it's being used and the rest, and we just don't think there'll be conflicts. The
No,
staff
I'm just
comes in
curious
with enough.
because I see, for example, at the post office, there are lots of people that use the handicap parking.
Two spots.
I know, they spend the day doing things up and down, which I'm aware of because I use it. And it's just a point of information.
Mhm.
People tend to take advantage of what they can.
Mhm.
And, go ahead, Ron.
Ron? Ron?
Can I talk from you?
Yeah.
I travel into town most days. And on occasions when things irritate me, I start counting cars in front of Rick's Clinic. And I can usually come up anywhere from 35 to 42 cars that are parked there all day.
Yep.
And then you go a little farther and you see the shopkeepers whose cars are there all day. So if you got them on some sort of time limit, you would gain 60 cars approximately that would free up Main Street for the tourists.
Right, 2-hour parking is more than adequate. There's not all that much to do.
You guys, did you guys take a look
What
at,
they do here.
That would be the next step, is we could examine whether or not you want to do some type of limited parking.
Even if you just painted it on the ground,
Or
rather than a signpost.
8 to 3 or something.
At one
not
point-
charge, just limit it?
At one point, we brought up the idea of actually seeing if businesses would park their staff over here, even if we gave them dedicated spots where we lined an area with and said parking for staff of, and try to get as many spaces open. So we can still pursue. I think the first though attempt is just some simple signage to maximize this building.
But still, you can gain 50 to 60 spots just by putting a 2-hour limit on it. Nobody's gonna come out every 2 hours and drive their car up the street and bring it right back. So, and I don't know where all these people go. Just stay all day.
We try to figure that out. I don't know what they do. They walk around and.
I imagine the ones from Riggs works at Riggs or patients at plants or whatever. But just look, even, you can also see the same cars every day. And I say, that's a nice car. And I said, that's a nice car. Every day I go by, it's in the same exact spot.
We could also consider, for example, in this public parking that we're being creating back here, not limit the number of hours you could park, whereas the spaces in front of merchants and on West Main Street, limiting it. So that would encourage, for example, shopkeepers or whatever, or Riggs employees or whatever, to park back here and leave those spaces open to the public. That might be another way to address it, is to sort of differentiate between where you have 2-hour limited parking and where you don't.
So BRPC a couple of years ago ran, and I went through their program of walkability of main streets and the rest. And the concept is basically that the closer you are to the designated area, the shorter the time period, and then if you're gonna have a cost, the higher cost. And then as you go out, you allow, just like you're saying, the further away from that, you get less restrictive with the time, less cost, and then ultimately, long-term free. And that's what you just hit on. But I think the first step for us would be just trying some signage around town. Take a look on a couple weekends, how it's working. Are people really using, and does it help at all alleviate the problem? So that would be our next step, and it'd be a very small investment.
So what I would like to see is a specific proposal of what you're recommending now without everything else. and what the cost of doing that is. And then let's bring it back and have a motion based on what those specifics are.
Would you like a design?
Yeah.
Of what the sign looks like too?
Could I ask another question?
Of course.
Where the basketball courts are out here, the two courts,
Yeah.
could they be shifted to another space?
Because it's a park and we'd have to pull it back from the park regulations, is that what we said?
Yeah, so I think the first attempt is, see how this does, and then if it's determined that we even need more parking, then we could look at what could, something like that.
Yeah,
It could be designated. Yeah, employee parking.
Okay.
or that could be bus parking.
That's true, because.
We got a big issue with bus parking. If you can do that, and have the buses parked there. Yes.
An easy in and out. for
Oh, you mean
That's
the
the short-
travel
Right,
buses?
that's right.
Oh, I thought you meant school buses.
They don't use us for-
Down the road.
Are there any more questions?
Nope.
Oh, thank you.
Good job, thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thanks, Cara. All right.
See you. Thank you.
I would like to punt on the question of the July 14th and 28th minutes. Can we do that the next meeting, please? Is that okay with you guys?
Yeah.
I just didn't have a chance to read
Okay,
it.
yeah, that's fine.
The Conservation Commission, Ronnie, you going? You're up. Not really. Conservation Commission has requested that we appoint Sally Underwood Miller to replace John Hart, who left the Stockbridge Stewardship Commission. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion, we appoint Sally Underwood Miller to the SBSC.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That was easy. Okay, the next thing on the agenda is the Affordable Housing Trust Fund appointments. We have a number of awesome candidates, frankly, more than we have spots. Do you want me to discuss who we have, or how do you want to proceed?
I have not seen them.
Okay.
Have you seen them?
Well, all of them have sent emails to us.
I only got a couple emails.
Which, you got one? Jay, did you send an email in?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, we know Jay, but that's one. Jay, Select Board and Planning Board are three potential slots. Then I'm sure Jane Ackerman sent one because I have the PDF of it right here that was sent to the selectmen. I'm sure Don Eaton sent one. I'm sure Renee Fitz sent one. I'm sure Selena Lamb sent one. I'm sure Mark Mills sent one a few days ago, and I'm sure Randy Warner sent one. Now, if you want to delay, so we have time
I didn't
to,
get any of those.
literally, I printed them from PDFs from my,
I did not get them on my computer.
So,
I'm just not lying to you.
Hard copies.
stop. Okay. I'm going to ask that we continue this for 2 weeks. However, we have work on this we're really trying to get done, and these people did send them all. And I just think you guys need to work all together to make sure that we're all getting the same information. And maybe this should have been in the packet, I don't know. But I just simply printed this from my email before the meeting today. These are, however, the names for us to consider for 7 slots. Jay, who wrote the original Affordable Housing Trust Fund documents, has thrown his name into the ring. Because the initial task of this group is the production of the housing production plan that we've already approved, and that requires the approval of the Select Board and the Planning Board. I think it is worth considering whether or not to have a Select Board rep and a Planning Board rep. It is my understanding that Jamie has asked to serve as the Select Board rep, and it's my understanding that Liz Wheeler, who is on the call, who's on the Planning Board, is asked to serve as a Planning Board rep. Now, that we do not have to have official reps. However, that's just one option for how we get down to 7. Then we have 4 folks, Jan, Don, Renee, Selena, and Randy, that's 5, not 4, are all 5 people who have, to my knowledge, never served on town boards and have all thrown their name in. And then we also have Mark Mills, who is serving currently on the Zoning Board of Appeals and who served on the production of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Documents Committee. So we've got 9 slots. And I think that come 2 weeks from now, we could, well, we need to pick 7 so we can get started. And I can send you all these PDFs. I've already assembled them.
So did we, as a board, decide
We haven't decided anything.
that planning board would get us, like,
We haven't. And we can talk about just generally how we select them now. So one option would be, for example, having a formal representative from the select board and planning board, which would take up 2 seats. The other would be some weird liaison thing. Michael, you suggested that you don't love liaisons, but whatever, we could do that. And then it would effectively be 7 board members plus a select board and planning board.
Or 7 plus the 2.
Yeah, we could do that. The problem is that,
Question, can a selectman be a voting member, then bring it to the board?
Yeah.
Okay, let's
As
do
long as
it.
only one can serve.
that's not true. We could, with cemetery commission, 3 serve.
By bylaw, you created that.
Okay, I'm not suggesting that we would need to do
Select
that.
board meeting.
Look, I don't want to serve on it anyway. I'm suggesting though that you could post it as a double meeting if you wanted to. But I'm not asking for us to do that. So I'm just simply saying that were there to be options, there would be options. Now, so anyways, there are 9 candidates. I will get you PDFs of everyone. I did send those off to you and Teresa, 2 weeks ago? And I would like us to make a decision, please, at the next meeting. We've got to select a vendor and try to start working on the housing production plan. And I think that there's some really pressing issues around housing here.
Well, there's definitely. So this is you.
What?
Are we going to have a name from the planning board, a person?
Liz Wheeler, yeah.
Was that?
Liz Wheeler is on the, I thought Liz was on the call, is she? Or is she no longer?
Before.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Liz Wheeler. Yeah.
No, she's not there now, but she was before.
Now,
So we got to cut 2.
we got to cut 2. And if you haven't reviewed them, I don't think we should do that here. Unless I could walk you through where each of these people, Michael and Jay and I have met with everybody, I believe, on the list.
but I have a question. Should Chuck and I be included in those kind of meetings or not?
Jamie, you can take any meetings you want.
Well, how do I know about them?
I can't.
Well, probably
Okay.
can't have more than one selectman or it's going to be.
Right. Look,
No, it was a simple question.
it's a simple question. It's a loaded question, Jamie. Come on. I've been working on this for 2 years and I've agreed to let you serve on it because you've asked. And then I'm taking guff for actually doing the due diligence to interview these candidates.
A question isn't guff. I'm sorry you feel that way.
All right, well, great.
You need anything from me as part of this process, or?
I don't believe so, not right now. I don't know.
I'm not voting for it.
He's on a roll.
I hope that's true.
Voting for you.
Look, we met with all of them. We can report you out. If you would like to meet with them in the next 2 weeks, you're welcome to.
Okay. So do you got anything left?
Yes.
I'm gonna continue the next thing and, like probably go have a cocktail. How about, I think we should continue 6, 7, and we have to do number 8.
What is 8? I'm not quite understanding
Number 8 is the requirements around elections. So first of all, what do you want to do with this right here? You want to continue it for 2 weeks?
Yeah,
The
I
appointments.
don't want to cut anybody because I don't know who they are and I got like 2 emails.
Okay.
I don't know why. I'm just saying that's all I got.
We may have just sent it to you as the.
No, they sent it to the selectman account.
I just didn't get them. I'm not.
I believe you. I
would love to
totally
have
believe
this
you. We
done
get,
tonight, but-
look, in everyone's defense, we get hundreds of emails a week. Many of them are spam. It is very hard with email to kind of keep it all sorted through. I'm not at all putting this on you guys. They were all sent to the selectman account. If everyone who's applied to this has done so following the procedures that we laid out as a board.
I know they have. I just haven't received them.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so motion is just continue the question about Affordable Housing Trust Fund.
Yes. I'll second the motion.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, I'm going to, I think that this idea of a select board internship is a good one. I talked to Peter Dillon about it and Sean Flynn, who grew up in Stockbridge, who's a guidance counselor now. They do it on the school committee already. However, Sean was on vacation this week, so couldn't come to the meeting to talk about it. It's just it's an idea to build a little bit of community, but I don't think we need to talk about it this week unless you guys want to. Because Sean is not here.
I'll wait for him.
All right, so we're going to continue that one. Project updates, do you want to do that quickly? You want to
Most of
continue
them
it?
done.
What do you want to do? What?
You did most of them.
Yeah, I know.
Just update the Tuckerman Bridge, assessment has been done, the initial assessment on the, abutments. So we can reuse those. What they'll end up doing is pouring behind them, the new footings, and then go across, but we'll keep the price about the same as what it was. So what you won't even see the way they're gonna do it. So, that was the good news, that we don't have to completely replace the
Right.
footings, because that would have jacked the price up. And as you know, out of a $4 million borrowing, we were estimating 2 million there. We will try to seek a $1 million Mass Works grant to try to cover part of the cost for that. But it's still a $2 million project total. The Everett Road Bridge, everything's completed. We did the walkthrough, the final punch list items and the rest, so that's been fully closed out. We also closed out all our grant documentation and everything else and have received all money, because it's key to get all your money in before September 30th to balance all your accounts. So Jay will like hearing that we got both reimbursements for
Thanks, that guy's
Everett and Larry Log Bridge. So those have been fully closed out with the state, which also opens us up to go after future applications, because like for the small bridge, you can only have one at a time. So we're gonna move those ahead. Those are the major projects that are happening, so.
Good. Any questions on projects, anyone?
No hands up.
Okay, upcoming elections. We need to sign a warrant for September 6th, 2022 state primaries. You need a motion or what do you need?
Let's just assign that, but we do need a vote to delegate Kim Shaw.
And so I make a motion, we delegate Kim Shaw to request the details for the following election dates: Tuesday, September 6th, 2022, and Tuesday, November 8th, 2022. Do I have a second?
What is that?
It's a new law that we have to vote a delegate to appoint for the election, to provide details. I don't know why they did it, but it came down as just a formality.
Sometimes the state has rules and we have to follow them. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, before we close, I gotta say something. Don't take it personally,
I'll try not to.
but I think tonight you as a chairman, I think were very unprofessional tonight.
Okay.
I think, you're really snapping at people, you're cutting them off. I know something got voted not your way, and after that, you were, I think, very unprofessional. And I don't think it's good for the sport or the town. That's my opinion on that. So I just think, you got to step back and think when you're talking. It just didn't come across right for a lot of people. And I don't know if you've seen it or not.
And I take offense to the getting angry with me with asking about the meetings. It was just a simple question. I'm sorry. I have the right to ask.
Sure.
Thanks.
Anything else?
No.
Motion adjourned.
Second.